I was in Cincinnati with Casey for a couple of years, and then I got an opportunity to go to our consumer headquarters, which at the time was in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
I had a leader at the time who really, really pushed me, like, hey, you should apply for this. You should do this.
Mm-hmm.
Really felt like I think I could be at Casey a long time. It's a culture that's based on kind of trust and credibility, and you build your internal networks.
Mm-hmm.
I have a high degree of trust in the people that are making decisions.
Matt Woolley Podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the Matt Woolley Podcast. Today, my guest is Kim Malec.
Good morning.
So glad you're here, Kim. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, so as we always do on the podcast, I kind of go through a little bit of background so people know who we're dealing with here. So who is Kim? Kim is an Indiana University Bloomington graduate, also an Indiana University Kelley School of Business graduate. Your past experience includes Hormel Foods, where you were an account executive and a category analyst. You also worked at Henkel as a category manager for the Kroger team, and currently at Kimberly-Clark, where you've been a senior team leader, a director of customer development, and now VP of sales for Walmart team for Casey Personal Care.
That's correct.
Did I miss anything? I'm sure there's
no.
Okay, all
there's
right.
a few steps in there, but
Right,
you don't work this long without a few steps. Right?
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
So, Kim, where were you born and raised?
In Bloomington, Indiana.
All right.
So I'm a townie.
So that was an easy transition.
Yes, it was very easy. And my mom and dad still live there to this day, or my dad does.
I don't know anything about Indiana.
Yes.
So tell me about Indiana.
If you were to ask anyone about Indiana, they would say there's a lot of corn, and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up in a college town, Indiana basketball was always huge. Bob Knight was huge. I like to think we were there during the peak of his years. And so basketball remains a huge part of the culture, and I think just the university is a huge part of the culture. But similar to this area, I always feel like Fayetteville is very similar in that you get kind of your towny summer. You love the students for all they bring, and then you love it when they go home, so you get your town back for a few months. But it's a very diverse community. So that's one of the great things that people may not appreciate about Indiana, similarly to here. Because of the university, there's just a ton of diversity in thought and in demographics and things like that. So I remember when I was in elementary school, there were kids in my class that didn't have a TV. And that was just so foreign to me because we grew up on TV, or I grew up on TV. And so it was very foreign.
Why didn't they have TVs?
Their dads were professors, and they would go to like sit-ins and protests. And, you know, my family is not in the university community. You know, my family's more working class and blue collar. So that was all very foreign to me. Like, did y'all come from New York City? And they're like, no, we live here. But they would go to protests, and they were just a little different than what I grew up with. So I love that we have that exposure.
So from the beginning, you kind of saw both sides of things to a degree.
Very much so, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your upbringing.
Sure.
Okay, so you said mom and dad are blue collar. What did they do? What's their background? How did they raise Kim?
Kim is an only child.
Oh,
so
no.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
It depends. It's surprising. It's surprising because you don't strike me, no offense to the single child
It's
folk.
okay, I'm used to it.
You don't strike me as a single child. So
Thank you. I think most only children I know have a lot of personality traits in common. So I used to work for an only child, and I had an only child counterpart, and we were all very kind of outgoing, I guess would be the right word. So my mom and dad met in high school, got married right after high school. Neither one of them finished college. And so they went to work at, there used to be an electronics manufacturer named RCA. They made TVs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone in my family worked there
Is that why you had
after high school.
Is that why you had such great accessibility to TV?
Absolutely. That's what I'm like. Not having a TV was just like, what? And so
Falling from the sky at your house.
we also had. I don't know if you remember them. They were video disc players, not DVDs, but like the big discs
like the
you would
records,
slide in.
like records,
Yes, we had-
laser disc.
and they would be all piled up in our house. So yeah, we
Man,
had those. We
that
had
was
VCRs.
legit.
Oh, we thought we were pretty
High on the hog.
pretty
Yeah, that's
fancy.
awesome.
But yeah, they both went to work there. They didn't work on the line. They worked in the office, but worked there their entire careers. And then actually, as the industry started to change and they started to move manufacturing to other countries, both faced with the factory that they were working at that they supported. My dad was in like payroll. My mom was in material ordering. They moved it to Mexico. And so they found themselves kind of in their late 40s, not ready to retire, but they had to start over. And so it was heartbreaking because I was in college at that time, and but I had to sit with them and watch them kind of as they started their careers over, which at that
And you're
late
kind of in a
stage,
transition time yourself, so it's like chaos.
It was. And so maybe I don't come off as an only child because they always kind of treated me like an adult. So and preschool wasn't a thing. Preschool wasn't a thing. So I stayed with my great grandma in the summers and before and after school, and I always watched like Price is Right, soap operas. So maybe I've always just been an old lady.
Like sands through the hourglass.
100%. I still remember some of the plot lines, and so so like
This is the work of Stefano.
Stefano Demira and Marlena's Possession are still like things that I remember.
That is absolutely awesome. So quick note. I stayed at my aunt's house during the summer. I do very well, and so I also know Bob Barker very well. And those were. That's awesome. Yeah. So can totally relate to those are good times. You know, that's great. You know,
great. I had home cooked food every day.
Oh
and,
yeah.
I think it's why maybe I was never around a lot of kids since I was an only. So maybe that's why I couldn't wait to get to school, and then,
Socialite.
Yeah, I just couldn't
naturally
wait.
fit in. So
hanging out with the old folks worked.
was it bum? Was it? Well, I do think that I was in a weird age group. I had tons of cousins but I was in that weird kind of by myself because people were either drastically older than me or drastically younger than me, and so I found myself hanging out. I'm not an only child, but my sister's like 4 years younger than me, and so it's kind of different.
I get it. No, I mean, I think it helps. It at least helped me. I mean, I think I can talk to anyone. And so I think that seeing my parents go through what they went through just made me develop sort of an affinity for never just thinking that you're too good to do something. You're not above anything, and certainly not above anyone. So I think that sort of lens, as I was going off and starting my career, made me really choiceful about where I went, and it's made me very choiceful about where I have moved and where I haven't moved.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So with that being said, doing a little deep dive here.
Yeah.
Did you? I mean, because let's put ourselves in their shoes. RCA, especially at the time, very large company, very big deal.
Yes.
Feels very stable.
Yes. Until it isn't. Yeah.
And so, has that? You kind of allude to that. Has that has affected how your thought process on that? But I mean, is that something that's kind of in the back of your mind in all your choices, or was it just one of these things? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's a very big deal. Because here's where I put myself, and I could be wrong. I don't know where they sat, financially. Don't know where they sit, but here they have a solid career.
Yeah.
And they got a young daughter in college.
Yep.
That costs money, cutting time, and all these other things. And then they're worried about, because they're on the closer side to retirement, if you will. So stressful.
Yes.
So what did that do to Kim?
Yeah, I think it. So I would say, just in general, both of my parents lost their dads very early, and so they were
pretty resilient.
Yeah, so they grew up kind of from single parents, and so it was always kind of doomsday planning, right? Like always plan for the worst. My parents have had their like burial plans figured out since I was like 10, which I was like, I don't want to talk about that, but because of the way they had grown up. And so I think,
Are you that way?
No, I don't. No, I mean, not with
Do you
burial,
plan for the
but,
worst?
I do plan for the worst.
That's awesome. I do too.
I always plan for the worst.
Because if it hits the worst, anything better is
right. So I'm not as frugal as my parents were. I think I have more resources than they did, and because I don't still live in the town where I was born, I've just seen more things, and so, but I'm definitely still risk averse. And so if I'm going to, for instance, when I sent my kids to college, I always made sure I had the next year's tuition chucked aside, or I always made sure that I had, and even out of habit, it's interesting. My husband and I met with our financial planners just last week, and we were talking about mortgage payments and things like that. And I'm like, we were talking about how much do you spend a month? And I said, well, I always pay extra on my mortgage, and I always have it paid like 3 months ahead. And they're like, why? I go, well, because like, what if something happens?
Right.
And so I think I'm a little looser than my parents, but I will always be really, I think, financially conservative. And now I see it coming to life in my own kids. My son's 23. He just moved out on his own. And
how was that on Mom?
it was fine. It was fine.
Good.
It was time, right? Like it's the
That's
natural
yeah.
order of things.
Yeah, right.
But like I see him, it's so funny. He works near the office, or he lives near where he works, and he walks to work because he doesn't want to pay gas.
Nice.
And he's like, I'm going to go to the office and use their water and electricity. And so I'm like, wow, just when you think those things aren't sinking in, like turn the lights off. Why is the window open with the air on or whatever?
That's a big deal.
It sinks in, right? So I think every generation maybe gets a little looser.
Yeah.
But what I also saw was that my parents were, and I am very much this way, their kind of self-worth and their happiness was tied up in their work ethic. Mm-hmm. And so I have always been brought up that like having a work ethic is good. Mm-hmm. And so seeing like other generations who maybe don't place the importance on work that I have in the past is not a bad thing, but it is a new thing to me.
Is it tough on you?
I can't relate to it at all.
No, I'm with you.
I can't relate to it, but I'm jealous of it.
Yes. Let's. We're all over with this. Right. That's
okay.
what it is.
That's okay.
I struggled with this too. Mm-hmm. Now, by definition, I am right on the cusp of a millennial.
Okay.
I'm defined as a millennial, but I'm actually, I consider myself what they call an exennial.
Yeah.
Because I'm more like Gen X.
Yep.
And all of my friendships, my close friendships, everybody's like, for whatever reason, 10 years older than me.
Yep.
Don't know why that is.
Squarely in my generation, I bet.
So that being said, there's a different mindset.
There is.
They seem to be able to turn it off really fast.
Yes.
Like it's just a job.
I admire it.
There's a piece of me that admires it, and then there's a piece of me that gets frustrated. I was like, but
Absolutely.
But it's Are you up at night? Are you the person that wakes up and thinks about and then takes over for a minute?
I woke up last night because I had a meeting at the end of the day yesterday that just made me crazy. And it had nothing to do with like people not taking things importantly. It's just that I so identify like my work and my ability to deliver contributions to kind of like my happiness and am I earning what you're paying me? And so when things don't go well, I do take it home. I don't think I don't want to be any differently than I am, but I have to somehow reconcile that with, not everyone operates that way, and that's okay. Like it's okay. It's probably healthier to care less. It definitely is healthier to care less, but I think that it is part of what has made me, if I'm considered successful, part of what has contributed to my previous success is that I just care. Sometimes I care too much, and that's okay. That's okay too. It's a good balance, right?
Yeah, I think so. And again, I try to look at things with perspective of, I used to get very agitated at it, but I look at things from the perspective of, if everybody that way, what a miserable world it would be.
100%.
And so, if everybody was as perfect as me and you, Kim, we wouldn't have it.
I don't even know if we want to live with ourselves, right? I'm like, that's why you don't live with yourself. Usually you find somebody who's a good balance.
Yes.
And same with work partners, if you will, same thing.
Yeah, everything's got to flow. So let's go back to,
yes.
So you went to the, Indiana University. So what was your ambition? So going into college.
I don't know. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I started off as a social work major.
Really?
Yes. Very, all of the kind of part-time jobs I had leading up to that, very service-minded. I worked fast food. I worked as a waitress. My dad used to joke about how many W-2s I would have.
That's
every
awesome.
year, because if I didn't like a job, I'd just go find another one, I'm like, this isn't really working out. I'm going to go find something else. But you never left one until you had another one.
What was your favorite job?
I worked as a bank teller.
That is crazy. So
I loved it.
That is awesome. This is really weird because you and I have so many parallels.
Yes.
So I was a waiter. I worked in retail, retail. And then also, that's actually was my starting career, was in banking, and that's how I got my start as a part-time teller.
Yep, I was a teller, and I was right next to a retirement community, and I've always kind of had an affinity for old people. I do think it's because I was around a lot of them, particularly some of my great-grandparents, like social friends that would come over. They were very much not into kids, so I had to just kind of sit and be quiet, but I've always loved old people. And so I was right next to a retirement community, coincidentally. And so a lot of them would come in and want us to balance their check registers. And so I'd be like, yes, ma'am, if you drop it off and come back in a couple hours, I'll sit here and balance your checkbook for you. And usually it was like they had transposed a 79 to 97 or something like that. That was my favorite job because I got to figure things out. I wasn't solving world hunger either. It was just math, but it was a big help to these people.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved it. So.
Yeah, that's one thing that I attribute to, if you want to consider what I'm doing as success as well, is it exposes you to a lot of very diverse personalities. And I say that there's three things that you don't get in front of somebody on, and it's their family, their food, or their money.
That's a good way of putting it.
And you're dealing with, there's people coming in, and you get a lot of distraught people because that check hit or that something hit, and all of a sudden, where's my money at? Yeah. And or the people that are OCD. I've been there with the check register, and just different things. But you've got literally every personality that exists. To the guy that says 2 words, to the guy that stays there for 20 minutes.
Do you still have a check register?
No.
I do.
Do you really?
my kids roast me endlessly because I do. I have a check register and I balance it perfectly every time I get in it.
That is amazing. Well, that's good. Well, see, I just use I have an Excel sheet, but I know what's kind of, but you literally write down if you use your card, you gonna write it down?
I do. And
so do you do it immediately, or do you put the receipt in and do it later?
I usually do it later.
Okay.
But I will also tell you, and now I'm having some self-realization, I do have a buffer that I don't write down in the balance. Okay. I have a buffer. Okay. Because you just never know.
No, I got you.
So I have a buffer in there, and I'm like, this amount is a buffer, but I'm not recording that. So
I used to do the same. I'd be like, back in the day, especially when things were a lot tighter. Yes. I always liked that safety net.
Yes, you hide money.
Yes, because you just don't know what's going to get screwed up or the thing, and so and then you also say to yourself, oh, it'll be fine because
Got a buffer. Got a buffer. But if you ever have like a real emergency where you're like, I really need a new Stanley or whatever, you're like, I can dip into my buffer.
I'm dipping in the buffer.
Dip in the buffer.
So well, let's talk about this real fast. I'm just curious. Yeah. So, you're married.
I am married.
How long you been married?
We got married in 2001. So
Okay.
I've been married in October. It'll be 24 years.
All right. So that being said,
Yes.
is he complete opposite of you?
Yeah.
I was just.
Yeah, I don't think he even knows how to log into our checking or like any of our bank accounts. So I have a spreadsheet of like the if I die file. Like here's all of our sign-ins and our links and
Yes. Okay. I figured that was the case because there was an incident. It's funny now, and it's funny that you say that. Here's all the stuff and it's not that she's not engaged. Leslie's actually, my wife is very engaged in things, but as far as the overseer, it's not ever. There's always in the family. There's the overseer.
Sure.
And I figured you were that person.
I'd like to be the overseer.
But there was a funny time I thought I was having, and it was because of some stuff I was taking, but I thought I was having a heart attack a couple of years ago. And I was like, something's not right. I said, let's get to the hospital. And so on the way to the hospital, I thought my heart was about to come into my chest.
Yeah.
And so as we're going there, Leslie's just bawling. I was like, look, just in case something happens. And then I started going down the list of, here's this, and this is where this is, and this is the, making the arrangements because I'm the overseer. And so I always think of that whenever I see personalities like
Yes. I have it in my notes on my phone, so my kids can also get in there if they need to. You got
the backup.
Yeah, so if they need to get in there, at least they'll know where everything is. And now my dad's by himself, and so it does give me pause because he lives in Indiana, 10 hours from here. Mm-hmm. And so I've tried to like tiptoe into like I don't need to know specifics, but like where's your file? Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, it's all in these different drawers. And I'm like,
that drives you insane.
I'll have my hands full, but it'll be fine. I hope it's a long, long time from now. But,
right. Well, it's one of these things. I'm the same thing I'm going through the same thing with my folks right now. They're just kind of like freewheeling and doing the thing. And this is what we got. And I am telling them, let's put this into a trust and let's do these things because people don't understand the nightmares that happen after the fact if you don't have that in place now and stuff like that. And it's like pulling teeth.
Well, we become kind of the parents, right? And I'm perfectly great being a kid. So I may be the overseer of like my tribe, but I hate telling him what to do. And I don't tell him what to do. And he's certainly not clueless. He's certainly not clueless. He's got advisors and all of those things, but I'm just like, we haven't had the talk about like when that time comes, where's the stuff I need to find? So
let's make a plan.
We'll get there one of these days.
It's all about a plan.
We got a plan.
And I'm assuming you always have a plan. Or when you go on vacations, are you the one that has the plan? Or you switch over to whatever? Kim?
It is really interesting. I do not want to make decisions when I'm not at work. So like, I don't want to decide where to eat. I don't want to decide. Now, I'll decide things like if we're doing like paint or wallpaper. Mm-hmm. My husband will say like, "What do you want to do this weekend?" I'm like, "I don't care. I don't even want to hold the remote." I'm like, "I don't want to decide what we're watching."
That's awesome.
I don't care. So we even have kind of a thing where I'll say like, I don't make decisions on the weekends. Like,
that's cool.
I do have a few. I have a few hard fast rules. Like I don't like to eat at home on the weekends because that's lame. So like I would say like no home food on Saturday nights. Like that's ludicrous. I don't eat home food on Saturday nights. But other than that, I just don't. I don't like to decide things.
So you kind of flip the switch.
I do.
That's good. Well, that's healthy.
Well, we're both terrible at it. We're like, where do you want to go? I don't know where you want to go, and then we just let's just DoorDash, but or Uber Eats or whatever. Yeah. But I really in my personal life. I like the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. When my kids were young, I just didn't want, I'm like, let's just all agree on something. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe it's because I didn't have siblings. I don't deal well with like squabble.
Really?
Chaos. I don't like it at all. And I never did.
That is an interesting, now, does your husband, did he have siblings?
He's one of 6.
Oh, whoa.
Right.
So he had dealt with it fairly easy then.
Yeah,
no big deal. That's just part of doing business.
Yeah, I mean, and so it's just interesting how people find each other that are opposites, right?
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Got great. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have any nieces or nephews or an extended family. So if we were both only children, that'd be pretty boring.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be a social worker.
I was.
And then you decided not to.
I decided not to.
Why is that?
There is even a program locally that's such a great program. It's called the CASA program.
Oh, yeah.
So I was a CASA volunteer.
Awesome.
When I was 19. And I only did 2 cases, and I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the fortitude. It was, you think you're going to go in and like help achieve justice, and then you get there. And I don't know if every case is the same, but like these were wonderful parents that didn't have the resources they needed. They weren't bad parents.
Yeah.
And so sitting like up close to that kind of just that kind of heartbreak where you're like, there's really not a great solution here. I couldn't, I'm not cut out for this
I understand.
at all. So I'm very soft. It turns out I'm very soft. Hard shell, soft center, apparently. So I pivoted.
You're an M&M.
I am an M&M. I think I would be the one with glasses. That's what my daughter always tells me. She's like, you would be the one, the brown with glasses. So yeah, I went to that, and then I actually ended up getting 2 undergrads. So I graduated with a degree in nonprofit management. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll continue this. And there just wasn't a lot out there, and so I went back and got my marketing degree in the School of Business. Nice. And that's how I kind of pivoted into. There's no job that is easy.
Right.
It's all hard.
Right.
So choose your hard, right?
Right.
So I might as well do the hard that's just business and not personal. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of pivoted me over. And then I got recruited right out of school and moved to Cincinnati to sell Spam and chili for Hormel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you have, first question, the most important one, did you have easy access to Spam and chili at your disposal?
Not only did we have easy access, as part of our training, we were required to do product cuttings. And so you would have to eat all of it. And that includes really, items that you might not consider really amazing, like Vienna sausage and pickled pin's feet.
Oh, yes, that's one thing I've never done.
Yeah, I just had a nibble. I didn't really go all in. And so, and I even had the opportunity. It's so fun as a young graduate. There might still be, but I'm not sure, Spam recipe contests at state fairs. I got to go and help judge and try all the recipes. It was the most fun. I still maintain that Spam is delicious. It's pork shoulder and ham. It's delicious. Nobody will ever convince me otherwise.
So I was going to ask you, do you still eat it? So I actually like it, and I think it's great for camping trips as well. If you go camping, if you want a quick, something to, it's in a durable container.
It's in a durable container. The gel packing that used to be around it is gone.
Right.
At least the last time I worked at Hormel, which was a minute ago. But pretty sure the gel packing is gone, and it's delicious.
Yes, it's got a nice savory taste.
Yes, and that's where I met my husband.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
So what was he doing at Hormel?
He was selling the really good stuff, like bacon and the fresh side of it, and I was selling. So
you're both sales folks?
Yes, different kinds, yeah.
Interesting,
so,
okay.
And so he moved to Cincinnati, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. All right, so forgive me, I don't have it on here. Okay. How long were you with Hormel?
I was there from 97 to, I was there almost 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
2007.
Okay. And was he there about the same time or a little longer?
He joined a couple of years after I did. He graduated after I did. Mm-hmm. So same amount of time, and through various restructures, we used to be in kind of separate divisions, and we ended up in the same one. Mm-hmm. And so we could both kind of see we were going to start being interested in the same jobs, and it just felt like time to diversify, So I'm I'm gonna go. We were both calling on Kroger in different functions. I was in category. He was selling deli stuff, and I had an opportunity to go work at Henkel, And at the time, it was a work from home position. I don't know if it is.
Oh, wow.
anymore. This was way before its time.
That was controversial
Right.
at the
but
time.
I had 2 young kids, and I was running around like a crazy woman.
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, well, this will be so much better for my work-life balance. I can get them to school and,
What year was this?
2007 to 2008.
What kind of internet did you have to do your job?
Not great.
I was fixing to ask, when you know.
Yeah, well, and
it was
nobody else could be on it at home. It was just me.
It was past dial-up, but it wasn't much better.
It wasn't great, but I didn't really have any issues as long as nobody was trying to work at home, with me. So, it was fine. But yeah, it was great for work-life balance. What it was not great for is the sales office didn't have an office. Like the Kroger team didn't have an office. It was a real small, compact team. I'm sure it's grown since then. But when we needed to meet, you would meet at people's houses, which was different. If you had a team meeting, we would use an office of like maybe one of our partners. We would go ask if we could borrow an office from someone. But you were never with people all the time. And so sounds amazing, and a lot of parts of it were amazing. It was very difficult for me to be with a new company and a new job at my house.
Kind of probably felt like you were on an island.
Absolutely. And I had a boss who was going through some personal stuff of his own. He was wonderful, but not always available. And so I'm like, I'm just kind of out here trying to figure this out. And wasn't really looking, and got a call from a recruiter about a role at Kimberly-Clark. And I'm like, well, I don't even have my resume updated, but sure, I'll go talk to them. And, the rest is history. Yeah. I met the team, and it was just, I knew straight away, it felt very familiar, sort of to Hormel. I was at Henkel less than a year. And so nothing wrong with Henkel. I just found something else. Or
Just
something
weren't
else found
vibing
me.
with it.
Something else found me, really.
Yeah.
I wasn't even looking. And I think it's because, or part of it, in part because Kimberly-Clark at the time was headquartered in Neenah, Wisconsin. Hormel is Austin, Minnesota, that like upper Midwest sort of feel. It felt very familiar.
And where were you living at the time?
I was living in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, but just like the feel of the company, the everything, just the people felt very similar in their, just in their way of working and way of being. And so I just thought, I feel like this is where I belong.
Have you seen that as a consistent in your company history as far as the culture?
I mean, I think I'd be crazy to say it isn't, right? Just because the one time I had anything different, I was like, this feels kind of weird. And there's nothing wrong with those companies, by the way. But it just felt very at home. I instantly felt at home at KC. And so... has the KC culture been consistent your entire time of being there? No, I don't think so. I think it's going through some changes. So I was in Cincinnati with KC for a couple of years. And then I got an opportunity to go to our consumer headquarters, which at the time was in Wisconsin, just south of Green Bay, so kind of right up in the middle. I had a leader at the time who really, really pushed me, like, hey, you should apply for this. You should do this. And, we were a dual career family. I did not want to relocate. Cincinnati's a good hub for CPG, but really felt like I think I could be at KC a long time. So talked to my husband, what do we think about this? Our kids were young, so they were still pretty mobile. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, let's give it a shot. And he's from Milwaukee. So we'd never lived near family. And we're like, let's do this. Let's try this. And so I loved living there. That's a very different culture. We get to a headquarters. And it felt like a completely different company. I'm like, holy cow, I had no idea this many people do this function or that function. Felt, and I mean that like in a very positive way. It was very, I think we're still very kind to one another. I think it's a very kind culture. That's evolving over time, right? And maybe it's evolving because the roles I'm in are different. But I think that is one thing that has been just a consistent kind of golden thread between my two long-term companies of Hormel and KC. It's a very, it's a culture that's based on kind of trust and credibility, and you build your internal networks. And so I think that's one of the reasons that has kept me at KC for so long is I have a high degree of trust in the people that are making decisions. And I ended up in Northwest Arkansas, I think, because the guy in Cincinnati who pushed me to go to headquarters came to Northwest Arkansas. And I had told
What time frame is this?
I moved here in 2012.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'd been at headquarters 2 years. And I told my husband, I'm like, so-and-so is in Northwest Arkansas. I bet we're going to go there next. I bet that's where we're going to go. So sure enough, I got an opportunity. And like one of the ways that I think that the company shows that they care is he had reached out to me in like January or February. And when I was in Wisconsin, and I said, I really don't want to move until the summer because I don't want to break up the school year. And he's like, well, that's great. Just move down in the summer. Like, so I think that carries through today. I think it's
awesome.
It's a very caring culture around recognizing that family will always and should always come first. Not every day, all the time. Right. Because you got all your different balls in the air. But I've always found that to be one of the things that has carried through. And one of the things I try to exhibit is being really understanding that you can force somebody to come in, but if they're worried about the people that they go home to, they're not going to be at their best. So let's just work around that. And I think that has supported my loyalty, and I think it has hopefully driven loyalty to the people that work on my teams.
The reason why I'm so glad you said that. The reason why I asked about it too, I was going to see if it reflected our experience, because I will say, full transparency, like we work with a lot of companies, big and small, but hands down, one of our favorites at Design Steins, and we've done a lot of work with you guys across the board, not just Walmart team.
Right.
But we see consistently, and we've even talked about this as a team, we see consistently that Walmart team is just as cool as Costco team, it's just as cool as CVS.
Fantastic.
Well, it's across the board. And there's a certain, you guys, and this is what I've told everybody when they ask, what's it like working with us guys? And I'm like, well, here's how it is. Like if a problem arises or there's a ripple, you guys aren't the ones to start throwing papers around and raising Cain. No, I mean, I'm sure there's frustrating times.
Of course.
But collectively, and we've had very little issues, but when one's right, that's when you see people's true colors, is when the issues come out. You know what I mean? When it hits the fan. Yes. And I've seen that the KC culture says, okay, how do we fix this?
Yes.
And we're all in this together.
Yes, and I think I'm so glad. That makes me happy. And I'm not surprised that the Costco team is awesome or that any other team is awesome. Like I think there is sort of a makeup of people that have stayed a long time and that have found, like, not just success, but have found satisfaction. And I think it is a certain makeup of people, and we tried to diagnose it so that we can, like, if we were a personality, what would it be? And I do think it is. If there's a problem with somebody on my team, I mean, it's my job to stand in front of them, not to throw them in front of me, right? And I think that's I think that comes out at all levels of our leadership, and if it doesn't, those people aren't usually around forever. So that makes me so proud to hear you say that.
Yes. It's definitely a great company because there's a lot of great people there too that have been there for quite some time.
Yes.
And there's something to be said for that.
Yes.
Especially in a day and time where people hop a lot.
You can't hop a lot in markets like this.
You can.
Yep.
And it happens all the time, but
Sure does.
You guys have a lot of consistencies.
Yes, I will hit 17 years next week.
Wow! Hey, congratulations!
I know. Thank you. Happy anniversary.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's switch gears.
Yes.
Let's talk to your personal experience, and we like to try to bring these things out.
Okay.
Let's talk to let's go back to if you could give young Kim advice on career path. What do you tell the young professional today? Not, Don't hold anything back.
Right.
Not, tell it like it is. What would you tell a young professional today based on young Kim's experience?
Young Kim. I think that even to this day, I challenge myself, and it's hard, and I challenge people who work for me. Don't take ownership of things that aren't yours to solve. So I can control what I can control. And I am here to help the team solve the things that none of us can control. I'm here to be a voice, to input into finding solutions. That's my job. But also, if there is something that is really out of your lane, above your pay grade, don't try to solve it. Like, go ask for help. People want to help. People want to be helpful. And so I think that is, if I had like one thing and I said, this is going to be on my like professional bumper sticker, what I do tell my kids is never be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to admit when you don't know something or you made a mistake. Because 9 times out of 10, if somebody says I made a mistake, it's like, okay, well, let's just figure it out. Let's just figure it out. Like, it's okay. We're gonna, you'll make the mistake once. And if we figure it out, you won't do it again. But if you're like, I don't know, well, I'm not super inclined to help people that don't take ownership of things, because we're all gonna make mistakes. Everyone. I'm sure I've made 5 today, So I think it is, don't be afraid to ask for help, and nobody expects you to know everything. If they do, well, then that's kind of a problem. But nobody knows everything. And so don't be afraid to ask for help. And also, like, don't assume you can't do a job. If somebody's talking to you about a role, you're probably okay to figure it out along the way. Like, there's never a point in time, I never wake up every day and be like, today's the day I could be the CEO. No, I don't think that day's going to come, for what it's worth. But I don't think there's ever a time where you're like, okay, I didn't know everything yesterday, but today I do. So like, I'm ready. You're being asked because somebody has recognized something in you that they see as valuable. So like, don't talk them out of it. Go try it. Let me balance that also with, you don't have to have a new job every 18 months to be like fulfilling your career trajectory. I would say my best experiences came out of lateral moves. So like, it's probably an overused example, but like, think of it like a jungle gym, not a slide, right? So like,
this will be a first for me.
Right. Okay. So like, when I left my job in Cincinnati, I moved for a lateral position, like just a lateral grading internally. But I had a chance to sit with a brand team and to see how to bring what they wanted to do to life, and like packs and price strategies across all these different customers. Still the same grade though. Then I moved down here, still the same grade. But I got the opportunity to work on our paper business, calling on Walmart. I mean, calling on Walmart's a very big deal. Still is a big deal. And so I stayed at that position, my goodness, I think for 7 or 8 years. And I mean, sure, you get tweaks along the way. I'm not going to say I had like the exact same thing. You get some tweaks here and there. But it was the same grade internally. And I then went, after I worked on our paper business, I had a role where it was a headquarter role that I did remotely, and it was building trade programs for the organization. So much exposure. And so like, every time I've done something different, I've learned something new. And then I came out of that trade job and I went into selling on the team lead role for baby. And like, so much good experience. So like, I finally got out of that grade when I moved into a director role. But like, the work was no more rewarding just because I got a bump, right? And so in leadership title or grades or whatever. And so I stayed in some of my roles 3 or 4 years waiting on things to open up. And God, like, there's nothing, like, to me anyway, like eating what you cook is the most satisfying, because business plans are so long in nature that if you show up and right now you're not going to live your own plan for probably a year and a half, you know, because the person before you has planned out ahead. And so actually like realizing what you have built and seeing what worked and what didn't, to me is where I got better. And so, yes, take opportunities as they come to you, but don't feel like I think there used to be an internal like 18-month clock where people are like, I've been here 18 months. If I'm not progressing, I'm falling behind. Like, you're not falling behind. Like, take all of these experiences and just get better around it. So when that next thing comes, my God, you're going to crush it. So I talk out both sides of my mouth. But I think it's an and, not an or, right? I think it's all of the above, and chasing grades only works for so long. Chasing promotions only works for so long, because eventually what you don't know will catch you. And it won't, at least for me, it wouldn't be satisfying to have a title if I didn't know what I was doing. That would not be satisfying.
I think that's fantastic advice. That's something that I struggled with for years, and it being an entrepreneur. Yeah, I struggled with it in banking, and I struggled with it being an entrepreneur. It's like, why aren't we at this point, or where are we at? You know, and you start getting into that comparison game, and then you start, you know, getting a little covetous, and then you know what I mean. And it's just not healthy. And one of the best pieces of advice a mentor gave me one time. I said, how did you do it? How did you get to this point? And he was like, he grabbed my shoulder and he said, Matt, it only took me 13 years to become an overnight success.
Well, it's true.
It is.
It's true.
It is. It's and everybody's journey's different. There's no one, you know, your journey. Somebody could literally be in the identical shoes from start to finish with you, but I guarantee you they are going to split off somewhere, because the individual has an individual journey.
Yes. And it's about choices. I mean, sometimes I was in those roles a long time because I got to a point with my kids where I was unwilling to move. And so I'm like, guys, my son's in 8th grade. Once he starts high school, I'm landlocked. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. And, you know, I want to stay here, and I hope that I stay here, but like, I'm landlocked. And so that's another thing that I appreciate about our culture that I think is even still evolving, is it used to be that if you didn't move, well, that was the end. Dead end. You're done. Go find another job. You don't want to move. Not necessarily so much at KC, but it was always implied, like, well, we can give you this job, but it's on this other team. You got to move. And I've been able to have tons of opportunities to advance and learn. I have waited longer. You know, I've had to wait longer than I would have. But it's been worth it. So for me, I have built my retirement house here. I plan to retire here in 10 years or less. And I'm not willing to move. And I know that will limit what is available to me. And I'm okay with that. Because every job I have is my favorite. I'm like, this job I have right now is genuinely my favorite. And so there's something about going through them too quickly, because you're like, I didn't even get everything out of that before I left it. So like, I'm going to get everything out of this one.
Do you think you'll actually be able to retire? Okay.
It's so interesting that you say that. I don't look forward to it, candidly.
Well, you don't have to, but you know, here's the thing. I've kind of come to this conclusion with myself, is that number one, the days of retirement that we think of previous generations aren't the same for us. Like, you have to have things set aside 100%. You're not going to make it on Social Security anymore. It's just a tax. It's just a tax. Yes, well, I won't get it. No. If I do, anyways, whatever the case. But honestly, I've come to the conclusion with myself, it's like, I think I'm going to go nuts. So I think if I was to be able to do that. So I think where the sweet spot is still staying active.
Yes.
Just being able to choose what you want to invest in. That's really I think the win, but it's staying active. Yes. And I've heard from so many great people too that have been in this industry and others that have said, one guy, this this is the hardest one, was he said, everybody I know that's retired and started sitting in a rocking chair on the front porch is dead in 6 months.
But
It's
really,
true. It's true.
Really, yeah.
You have to have a purpose, and you have to keep moving. So when you said retirement, I don't see Kim as somebody that's just going to stop moving.
I really genuinely can't even fathom getting up without going to work because I do enjoy it. Don't enjoy it every day all the time, but no one does. That's why they pay us.
Right,
right. Otherwise, we'd just be volunteers. I mean, to be super candid, my mom died at work. My mom had a stroke and died at work.
Wow.
And she was 72 because she didn't want to retire because you never know when doomsday is coming, right?
That's
and
right.
so, and my parents are very financially secure at the time, and she just wanted to work. So to your point, I want to choose the kind of work I do. And if I still love my job in 10 years, well, I'm going to keep working.
That's awesome.
If I don't love this job, I'll have to find something.
Right.
I mean, if I don't, I'll probably go adopt about 20 dogs. So maybe I'll go work at Best Friends or something.
Have you talked that one through with your husband?
Yeah, he's really
He's supportive?
No, but I wouldn't say supportive. I would say he takes the path of least resistance. I love those dogs, and I don't think I'll have 20, but I may go work at an animal shelter and foster some here and there.
That's awesome.
Long term, off the rails.
Well, let's talk personal.
Yes.
So I think we figured out what gives Kim joy in the workplace, but what's the let your hair down? What's the let your hair down? Personal Kim. What do you like to do? What gives you joy?
I'll tell you, what gives me joy is, I'm not getting emotional, I just have a scratch in my throat. My kids are so awesome. And we have raised just like the most amazing kids. And I actually really like who they are as adults, because you never know, right? You have these kids because you don't know. And you have them and you're like, I think I'm going to do the best I can do. And very wonderful people sometimes have kids that have a really hard time, or they're just really a lot to handle. Mm-hmm. And my son is 23. I mentioned him. He works in the supplier community. I'm so proud of him. And he was also a bank teller, just so you know.
Oh, that's cool.
College.
I think I like this guy.
Yeah, he's a good one. And he's just he's a really fun adult that I am proud of. I never am afraid to take my kids anywhere because I just know they're going to show up and be these kind of adults that
very
can talk
proud
to
of
people.
them.
I am. Yeah. My daughter is soon to be 20. She just finished her sophomore year at U of A, and she's going to be a teacher. And so I don't know where she got her kind heart for that, because I will tell you probably if they were here and you said, what are some of your most stressful memories? It's probably me trying to do homework with them, because I'm not good at that. I'm just not. So I don't know where she got a heart for it, but God bless her. She really wants to teach middle school.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Whoa.
So again, I'm so glad we have her, but I don't know where she came from.
Again, it goes back to, the good Lord puts everybody on this earth with a different personality and a capability. So we're able to keep it going and keep it moving. Yeah. And, I'm glad somebody else wants to do that.
Me too, because it would never have been me. As I reconsidered everything, that's
peak hormones. That's peak hormones. And this day and time, it's nuts what the teachers have to go through. And so... Yeah, well, so
God bless.
God bless her. Yeah, for real.
I'm so proud of her. I don't know where she got that kind heart.
Where does she want to teach? Do you know yet?
Well, she got
her eye on a specific
girl. I think she kind of wants to stay close to mom, and mom is totally fine with that. As the person who, by my parents, was encouraged to get out, go find a job, go make money. Yeah. Because money is freedom. To my parents, right?
100%.
And we never have enough freedom. Nobody's ever fully free. But I feel good that my kids have not really attached financial with their fulfillment. So I feel really good about that. Good. I don't personally practice it. I feel like it's hard. But
there's those that look at the scorecard and those that do not, and that's okay. It takes both.
Yeah. So I really
that's
love
great.
that. I mentioned dogs. I love my dogs.
How many dogs you have?
I have 3,
Okay.
which is a lot of dog.
That's a lot of dogs.
It's a lot of dog.
We have 2, and they're a handful. 2's a handful.
3's a handful.
3's a crowd.
3 is a crowd, and I have to force myself not to look at rehoming, animal shelter things. I'm like, no, there's the shelter. I'm like, I turn it off. I love that. So I think when my husband and when our kids are out, and maybe even not when they're out, we are starting to travel again, just the 2 of us.
Awesome.
We can let the kids watch the house.
Yeah.
It's great.
Absolutely.
And I really, in my free time, I really do enjoy working out. That sounds crazy. I enjoy working out when it's by choice.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I for years was in the training program for the Bentonville Half, and I loved it.
That's brutal work.
Oh, I was gonna say, but kind of when I turned 50 a couple years ago, I'm like, I think I'm done. I think I'm gonna quit doing things I don't like. I think I've earned the right to stop doing things I don't like. So I don't run anymore. God, I'm so envious of people who can commit to that. A half is probably where I cap out.
Some people it's their thing, and some people it's not.
Yeah.
And it's again, to each his own. That's what it is.
Right.
It's different.
Right.
But that's you won't, if you hate it, you're not going to be encouraged to do it and be good at it.
Very focused classes. Tell me what to do and what to lift and how to run, and then we'll be fine. So I enjoy that, and I do think that when I get to retirement age, I love retail. I just love retail. I think it's the most fun.
It is.
I could honestly see myself going back to work retail.
That's awesome.
I would love that. And so I don't know where I'll go. I really enjoy real estate, but so does everybody else. So I'm definitely not flipping a house. I don't, that's not my gift.
Maybe a realtor.
Maybe.
With your sales capabilities and your love of people, you'd kill it.
I would love to just sit in a model house and talk to people about, oh my God, have you seen this floor plan? Have you seen this? I would love that. So I don't know, but I do think, I think you've read me correctly in that retirement would be hard for me just to go straight to sitting in a rocking chair, even with my dogs. So I intend to find something to do, even if it's not a paying position. And I hope that if my kids decide to have families of their own, I hope they do. I would love to be the kind of grandparent that can be a resource
Absolutely.
for them too, because
That's awesome.
it's not something that we've had. It's always just been my husband and I against the world in terms of childcare. And so I would love to be the kind of grandparent that could be helpful to my kids and be
Take the
involved in their
appointments,
lives.
go grab those, pick them up. Yeah.
Right, I'll be
That's
your
living the
chauffeur.
dream.
That's right. I would love that.
That's awesome.
So that's where my head's at now. I guess I have the right to change it in a few years.
Whenever you decide to move forward, what is it that you hope people say about Kim? What is your desire that people say about Kim?
Yeah. I hope they would say it now, and I hope they say it in the future. I genuinely care about them more than the results that they deliver. I care about the results.
Right.
But more than anything, I care about the people on the team. And so I think that is sort of, well, we can't always control business. We can't. We'd like to think we can, right? But we can't control tariffs or business. I can't control a decision on a modular. We can do the very best that we can to influence the outcome to be what we would like it to be. But sometimes it's just not going to happen. And I want everyone to always feel supported and that I always had them, that I was always their safety net. And so even now, sometimes I'll have people that report to me and say, I'm sorry if I'm bothering you. I'm sorry if I'm doing this. Like you are actually my job. I don't have a number anymore that I go sell against. I mean, I do, but the people are my job. And so I like to think that they may not look back and go, boy, remember that great mod she had in 2020? Yeah, I doubt that's going to happen. I really doubt that's going to happen. But I would hope that even the counterparts at Walmart, my counterparts, who, by the way, have always been, I've called on a lot of different customers. I think they're very pure in their motives around, they all show up wanting to deliver the best for customers. And so, and that's been consistent. Like, they're all very pure in their purpose. And so I hope in my purpose is that I hope that my team would say, like, she really, really cared about us, and like the business results were gravy. And I like results. They're nice, and they make life a lot easier. But I genuinely care about these people that I work with every day, even if they don't report directly to me. I care about them. I am here for them. And even if they don't report to me, I'd love to be a resource for them.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Kim, I appreciate you coming on. This has been
me too.
fantastic.
Me
An
too.
hour's
It's so
gone
quick.
by. Yes, it always does with good conversationalists such as yourself. So I
thank
hope
you.
you'll come on.
Likewise.
I hope you'll come on again.
I would love to. Maybe when I figure out what I'm doing in retirement.
Thank you,
All right.
Kim.
Thanks so much for the time. I appreciate you.